Razbani for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to finally have the magic man back on the shores, and he doesn't seem too happy today. Paulie, what's up?
No, I'm good. I'm in a great mood, actually.
No, you're not. Go on, let you out.
Manchester's always a very welcoming city here. It's actually a nice day today, bro. How often do you have the sun in Manchester? I've been here enough to know that it's a rare deal. Even though somehow you got the sun out and it's cloudy, somehow you have both today. But it's good. It's good. It's a good day today.
You got enough ice and tissue on you?
I do. I was just complaining about that. In Europe, they're very stingy with ice and napkins for some reason, but I managed to. Luckily, I had a couple from the hotel that I had in my pocket. Otherwise, I would have been on the balls of my ass with no napkins while I'm drinking this coffee.
Paulie, what have you been up to? Obviously, haven't seen you on these shores for a few months now. How's life? What have you been up to? Married, kids, all of that stuff?
Wait, come on, man. Easy. I'm a busy guy. Can you imagine me having kids? I'm the big kid myself. I need somebody to babysit me.
Maybe they will babysit you.
No, don't tell me that. No, don't put me in that position. No, don't do it.
Paulie, obviously Boxer series this week is the cruiserweights. I know you've done a few of these before, but how important is it of an opportunity for these 8 fighters to grasp an opportunity to win a contract with obviously Sky?
Anytime you have a situation like this, it's a big opportunity because typically it has fighters that are relatively talented, relatively good records, but they haven't gotten breaks. So guys in that position are looking for a huge break, and the tournament itself is a huge break. Then if you can take advantage of the break by winning it or performing well on television, well, you know what? Maybe you open up a couple more doors. So this kind of thing, I love that Boxer still stays with its root, which is to do these tournaments as well. Obviously, it moved on to a lot bigger shows, but I love staying true to the root with these shows because it gives these guys, a chance to fit through the cracks. These are big breaks for these kids and these guys in general because it's not just the opportunity to be seen and make a big impression, but it's also the opportunity to entertain because when you've got a bunch of hungry fighters under one setting fighting each other, you're going to have you're guaranteed to have good nights. I don't remember one Boxer tournament where I was disappointed in the action.
Probably obviously in the UK over the last couple of years we've had Khan, Brook, Frotches, David Hayes, the Bellews, etc. come and go. I know we've got Joshua Fury at the moment, but who do you see as potentially that next star from any weight category from the UK?
You know what? I just had a look at him yesterday. Ben Whitaker. I gotta say, Ben Whitaker. I like the story. I liked him at the Olympics. I like that. What do you call it? I don't want to use the wrong word here, but anyway, whatever it was, I like the intensity and the game face he had, even to not accept that silver medal. And I love that it raised the opinions of him, whether it was good or bad. I personally love that he doesn't accept second best out of himself out of nothing. Silver medal is always it's quite an accomplishment, but this guy holds himself to such a standard that it's terrific to see such a hungry guy with such charisma, such personality, and such talent to join the fray in the pros, because that same hunger and that same drive, that unfinished business that he feels like he has, you're going to start to see it in the pros, and he's going to have to take that same mentality. And plus, like I said, with the combination of the charisma, the personality that he's got, I think, and with the situation that, in the UK, boxing is a pretty big deal. So as a boxer, if you have this combination of things, you really have an opportunity to cross over and make a big name for yourself. I think Whitaker has a real opportunity to sort of be the next guy in line to be the face of the UK boxing scene. He's got a lot of the branding fundamentals in him, in his personality and in his boxing style.
Paul, I just want to go back to the weekend. Obviously, big fight out in America in Vegas, Canelo, Bivol. Did you expect that to happen?
I expected Bivol to put up a good fight and maybe get robbed. As a matter of fact, if you look at my YouTube page, Paulie.tv on YouTube, for anybody that hasn't joined it yet, you're late to the party, so jump in. I actually said that it would be a controversial decision because you know what, you can't predict the judges. You can predict the fight, you can't predict the judges, bro. You know what I mean? So I predicted that Bivol would probably do well and get robbed. I called it controversial decision because you got to be PC these days. You can't just say outright robbery. So and sure enough, I mean, it almost was. I mean, they had it a lot closer than it should have been. But ultimately, the right guy got the decision. People's tremendous fighter. Everybody knows what I feel about Eastern European fighters. I think they're an ascending group in the sport, and they're tough to deal with both from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. And that's why guys like Bivol have been tough, and guys like Golovkin were tough on Canelo too. People are going to mention Kovalev, but Kovalev was mentally checked out. You could see he didn't fight with that same crusher mentality in the Canelo fight. But nonetheless, it's hard to convince an Eastern European fighter that he doesn't belong in the fight. He's going to fight you all the way through. You can beat him, but he's going to fight you all the way through. Whilst a lot of times Western fighters, they'll sort of mentally fold a little bit, even if they're talented. You kind of saw that with Saunders and Caleb Plant when they fought Canelo. Good fighters. They had some talent, but they sort of mentally gave in to him even before the fight was over. You could kind of tell where it was going. It was already over. Like, you could tell something in their mentality changed. Bivol actually increased in confidence as the fight wore on and was determined to boss it, and he sure did.
What could have Canelo done different?
You know what? What he could have done different is something that I've never seen him do. Fight at a higher pace. It was one thing that I questioned before the fight. I actually said this in several different prediction segments. I did one with Roy Jones and Antonio Tarver on ProBox TV. Check that out too as well. We're launching next week with Jean Pascal versus Mang Feng Long. ProBox TV app, $199 a month. $18 for the whole year, all boxing content. Anyway, I did a segment with Roy and Antonio, and I mentioned that same thing before the fight, where I said, I just don't know if Canelo will be able to raise the tempo if Bivol raises his tempo, because Bivol tends to fight at a much faster, higher tempo and pace. And I said it even on my own channel, and again, I mean, it's kind of was the difference in the fight. And so, what could he have done? Fight at a faster pace, but I don't know that Canelo has that in him, because I was thinking at first maybe he's made too much money. He doesn't want to be uncomfortable. He's a big, he's kind of created a legacy for himself. And you know what? When he has to raise his level to be in an uncomfortable situation, when you're already that comfortable, it's kind of hard to get yourself there. But then I thought of it. He didn't even do that in the Mayweather fight, and he was young in the Mayweather fight. He also didn't push it. He was outclassed in experience, but he never push the envelope to say, let me put myself in harm's way to try to go get the win. So maybe it's just not in his personality. He's got to sort of dig in and see what he's going to do if he's going to fight the rematch. I personally don't think he should do the rematch. I think he should just go for the third Golovkin fight and then reassess everything. And people are going to, the Canelo fanboys are going to tell me that he did dig in when he fought Golovkin in the second fight. He came forward in the second fight. His output didn't change. He was just very in tight, and he came forward. So he changed that aggressiveness, but you got to get off. Bivol, unlike Golovkin, doesn't sit on all his punches. It means he can get off more punches. He can throw more punches, which means you got to up your work rate if you're going to win those rounds. And it's not easy to do. Personally, I don't think stylistically it's the best matchup, and plus he's not in a position where he's at his best weight class. But if you go to 168 and you make Bivol come down there, maybe it's more of a talking point. You can fight for the undisputed title. Now the talking point is, this is Canelo's better weight. Does Bivol struggle to make weight? You got a bunch of talking points that make the fight interesting, even though I don't think anything changes in the fight. And at 168, you've also got, guys more his size. I do want to give Canelo credit, though. I mean, he could have fought somebody like Makabo, who was bigger, but I thought more weak, boxing-wise than Bivol. But he chose to go for Bivol. They got to give that credit, because when you like Canelo, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go, right? And he wanted to. And when you keep putting yourself in a weight classes where you're higher, you're jumping up and putting yourself in these situations, you always have a little bit of an out in case you get beat. Well, if you get beat in your own weight class, you have less outs, So you have this out. But he could have still chose to go if he went up the higher weight class route, he could have chose to go for Makabo, who in my opinion would have been a weaker opponent, even if he was bigger. But he chose to go for Bivol. So he did test himself a little bit more. I think the Usyk conversation's out of the question. I mean, that was absolutely asinine when they were even bringing that up. But yeah, that's basically my assessment of the whole thing.
I was going to ask you about the Usyk stuff. Do you think that was almost, obviously those conversations were taking place during fight week, before the fight. Do you think he was overlooking Bivol at any time, looking beyond?
Those conversations happen every fight week when Canelo fights. So you're already talking about the next guy on the week of the fight. I mean, I remember I was there the week he fought Caleb Plant, and they were, discussing other options for him. So this is not something new. When Canelo fights, the topic of conversation goes everywhere.
Sticking with Alexander Usyk, looks like the rematch is in in the Middle East. Eddie Hearn has it looks like it's going to go in the Middle East.
Say Sicily, wow, Middle East. Wow, you guys got all this money over there, man. All right.
Obviously, Joshua it seems like he's had a little change in his training camp. It's to be announced who he's going to bring into his team. What does he have to do to beat Usyk?
I think he has to impose himself as a heavyweight physically, but it's not. It's easier said than done because you still have to close the gap. In order to impose yourself physically, you got to be able to close the gap on Usyk physically, and then kind of make him feel your weight, rough him up and whatnot. My personal opinion. But in order to do that, you've got to close the gap, from the range. And Usyk's feet are fast, and Usyk knows how to clip you on the way in. He knows how to, pick you off on the way in. So it's not as easy as just, he's just got to be the bigger guy, because you still have to figure out a way to close the distance so you can show yourself as the bigger guy. Because from far away, as we saw in the first fight, from far away, from that distance, he has a hard time showing himself as the bigger guy. And as a matter of fact, from a distance, being the bigger guy hurts him because he's slower. So he's got to figure out a way to negotiate that distance, be a little bit more deceptive, and that's up to him to figure out, because it's not that easy. Usyk has a lot of tricks up his sleeve when it comes to understanding and keeping the range at a comfortable place for him.
With everything going on in Ukraine and Usyk, and obviously he went back there to defend his country, obviously the oppression is still taking place. He's going to now come out of that, or he has come out of that, go into training camp and fight Joshua in a rematch. Psychologically, is he going to be in the right frame?
I think so. I think think these kind of situations tend to spur guys like this more. Like it gives them something a little bit more to fight for. They're very patriotic and about their people and wanting to defend their people. And I think that it may have distracted him at first, but I think he'll be willing to fight for more. There's more. There'll be more on the line for him in his mind. He'll want to be making his people proud and whatnot. I mean, look at Lomachenko. I mean, he gave up the chance in the undisputed lightweight title, and we know how badly he wants that undisputed lightweight title, because that's all he talked about all the time. So for him to give that up in order to stay in Ukraine and fight for his country, you see how much it means to these guys. So I think Usyk will probably sort of feel that pressure and put that pressure on himself. Not that he feels it, but he'll put it on himself because he'll want to do his people proud. But ultimately, with these kind of situations in the world, the only people that win are the globalists. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Tyson Fury retired. Does he stay retired, or does he come out and fight the winner?
Fury is a very good fighter, the man of the moment, both in boxing and in the heavyweight division. But I think he doesn't have a lot to prove. I mean, I think he's done everything. He can still remain very relevant, not being an active fighter. He can do exhibitions with guys like Francis Ngannou. He can go the WWE route. He's proven himself to be the best heavyweight of the era, of the moment. I think he's left that bar none. Are there guys like Joshua and Usyk that he didn't fight that people will question? Sure, they will. But at this point, I think he's been so dominant that, those kind of questions are just, more hopeful thinking than anything else, I mean, that was a real stamp he left on his career with an emphatic knockout over Dillian White, who, for me, was a guy who had deserved a title shot for a long time and had never lost in a non-competitive fight. I mean, he dominated a guy who was very difficult to deal with. For me, my personal opinion, I think he does stay retired this time, but he probably will be active in the limelight. He's a charismatic guy. People are always going to search for him for interviews and make appearances and whatnot. I think he's going to stay in the spotlight. People are going to see plenty of him, but I don't think he's got to put himself at risk anymore. I don't think he needs to, but he may still do some exhibitions. I think the Ngannou fight may pay him more than all the other stuff. Who knows? MMA fans are pretty dumb, bro. They'll actually think the guy can win. So they'll buy the hell out of it. We've already seen this. They buy anything. So I mean, you can probably, incredible to say, but you can probably make more money doing the Ngannou exhibition than you would taking a risk fight with AJ or Usyk.
Going down a few weights to the lightweight division, obviously in a few weeks' time, Devin Haney attempts to become the undisputed champion against Kambosos in Australia. Tough fight?
Yeah, that's a hard one to pick, man. I tell you, some days I'm thinking and I'm like, Haney wins, and then some days I'm thinking and I'm like, Kambosos wins. It's a tough fight, man. I mean, who knows? It may come down to the fact that they're in Australia. Who knows? It's not an easy one to pick, man. I think it's Haney's toughest fight of his career. But I think stylistically, he also matches up well with Kambosos, because Kambosos is a bit of a tough one with flat feet. So while it may be the toughest fight of Haney's career, Haney's physical gifts, if he can stay mentally strong, may be able to carry him through. But we don't know if he's mentally strong yet, because we haven't seen him in that kind of tough fight yet. He hasn't really stepped up to that level. You know, he's fought smaller guys or faded guys. Now he's fighting a bona fide lightweight champion. It's a lot of question marks on the table, man. It's like I said, for me, it's hard to pick a winner, man. I'm really on the fence with that one.
Tank and Rolly?
That's a fun one. You know, probably. Listen, I think Tank is a little bit more versatile. I think he showed a lot on Pitbull Cruz fight, the last fight. You know, people think we're just getting used to him getting these knockouts, but Pitbull was a sturdy, stubborn guy. So Tank had to go back and box him, and he showed that he has boxing ability. And I think that may be the key here. I think you're gonna probably see a stoppage for Tank Davis. Rolly will be dangerous at first, but I think Tank's ability to be a little bit more versatile than just to be a puncher like Rolly, I think that may be able to carry him through at the end of the day.
Paul, you have that little crew of fighters: Tank, Ryan Garcia, Haney-Kambosos. Tio just going up. He's looking like he's going up. Shakur Stevenson is 5 pounds down below. Who's kind of the one that you say that's the one?
I don't know, man. The one that really gets my attention most is Shakur Stevenson. Honestly, like quietly, I know he's the smallest one, so that's the only if. He's a natural, you know, he turned pro at featherweight, but I think style for style, he may be the most complete, intelligent fighter there, you know. And that's in a crew of a lot of good fighters, don't get me wrong. Because again, I mean, for me, though, until Lomachenko is completely out or too old, then you know, I can't count Lomachenko completely out of the mix. But when he's getting a little bit old, and I don't know how he's going to come back now, so I say Shakur is the next guy on the line.
Right, all right, Paulie. Well, enjoy fight week. Enjoy Thursday night, Friday night, whatever you do. Be good. If you can't be good, don't be bad. And I'm sure we'll catch up the next couple of days.
Bro, if I'm bad, it's always on the low. Don't worry about it. Nobody knows.
I swear the last time you were in Manchester, I had a video of you topless dancing. Do you remember?
I'd rather forget those nights.
Keep the drinks out of your mouth. You'll be fine.
No, I'll be good. Maybe I'll eat a little. I'll go out for some dinners over here. He's got some good restaurants here, I'll tell you that. Manchester's got some good Italian restaurants.
Paulie Malignaggi, IFL TV, thank you very much.
Welcome, Team Everlast, to the Team Everlast Fitness app. Download the Everlast Fitness app and find your greatness within.